Hello, everyone. Is this working now? This is like the fifth time I've tried to start this today. We'll see if it's working. Maybe, maybe not. Yellow. There's Brookie. Hello. Oh, look, there's people. Hi, Daniel Thompson. There's Scooter. Hi, Ethan. How are you? What's up, Nikki Green? Sorry, guys. Hi, Paige. I'm really excited for today. Hi, Lauren. I'm sorry that if you caught all those other videos that I started, because my internet wasn't working. I'm glad you're good, Ethan. Also, Brooke's already a celebrity in here, so it's nice. Okay, so today I'm stoked about this. I started quarantine with Christine when I put myself in quarantine 4 days ago because I have a slight cough. I don't think I have the coronavirus, but better safe than sorry. Anyway, this has been super fun for me. I just, oh yeah, Zach Todd, Lauren Hull is in here. Look at all these friends. So this is actually the point. I just wanted people to hop in here and appreciate one another, ask good questions, talk to each other, talk to me, like spread some ideas and nut germs, you know? But the original inspo for this is in the room today, and he's who I get to talk to. Scott, Dr. Scott Saunders, and I'm gonna bring him in. You ready, Scooter? I'm finding you. So anyway, he's the best. He's like a real life, super smart doctor. Oh, there we go.
Hi.
Hi. What's that behind you?
Oh, it's our palm art. And if
Wow,
you have it just right, it looks like a headdress.
that's really nice. It's like Kuzco from Emperor's New Groove.
Exactly.
That's amazing. Okay, so everybody, this is Scott. Scott, can you tell everyone where you live, what you do?
Yeah, I live in Denver, Colorado. I've been here for a year and a half. I'm a hospitalist, so I'm a doctor trained in internal medicine, which basically is kind of like general medicine for adults. And a hospitalist does general medicine, but only in the hospital. So, like, probably most of you, if your parents came to the hospital for a general reason that wasn't surgical, I would end up taking care of them. So, we kind of help coordinate the whole hospitalization, get consultants like kidney doctors, lung doctors, heart doctors if we need their help. And we're kind of like the quarterback of the hospitalization for a lot of patients. Ooh, don't touch your face.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So everyone, this is Scott's one of my favorite people in the world because he's so funny and amazing and talented at impersonations and dancing.
Wow.
Very
Thank you.
smart. But also one of my favorite things about you is, which is probably one of your least favorite things about me, is that I don't really like to go to the doctor. So when there's something kind of wrong with me, I just send Scott a picture and I say, "What do you think about this?"
Yeah, you're not the only one. My
So
sister does it, but with her children, and I'm not a pediatrician, so every time I say, I don't know, but she still asks me questions. So,
I just feel better. And then usually he just scolds me and is like, you should go to the doctor or
yeah,
get a
you should go
doctor.
to the doctor. You
So,
should all have primary care doctors.
yeah, well, Grandpa Scooter. Hi, Kaylin. Okay, so,
Hi, Kaylin. Wow.
you, Nikki says that's what I do too. That's amazing. So, this is like, I'm excited to get educated because literally I was asking you a bunch of dumb questions on Monday about the coronavirus. And I don't think that I'm that stupid. Like, I wouldn't say I'm the smartest cookie, but I'm not that dumb. So, I figured maybe other people had these questions too. And then people sent in some good questions about COVID-19. So, I'm just gonna start asking you questions. Is that okay? And you can
Yeah,
educate us about Dr. Scott. Okay,
that sounds
first,
great.
what is a virus? Let the world know that Scott asked himself this question via my Instagram.
Great question, Christine.
Thank
A
you.
virus, um, I think viruses are really interesting because there's no like point to them really. Like a virus is genetic material, so like DNA or RNA. It's like the same stuff that we have in us,
Hmm.
surrounded by like a protein capsule.
Okay.
And sometimes they have like a membrane around all of that, kind of like our cells have a membrane. And that's it. So what they do is they land on a cell, inject their genetic material in, and then that material makes proteins and it kind of takes over the cell and makes the cell do what it wants. Basically, make more virus. Um, and that's like the whole point of it.
It's like a
So
is it like a molecular parasite then?
yeah, kind of. Yeah. So it'll never, it, it's interesting because there's like a debate about are viruses life or not, and they can't reproduce on their own. So a lot of people say no. They have to have like the machinery from something else, whether it's like a plant or a human, animal, or whatever, bacteria. Um, so I just think that's interesting.
Yeah.
There's no point to them besides to reproduce.
Yeah,
But
Hannah Scott wants to know, are all viruses bad? That's a good question. Also, Abby Ton says, Grandpa Scooter is a doctor? Question
hey,
mark.
Um, no, I don't think all viruses are bad. So thinking about like why do they exist? I think it's because for whatever reason, just genetic material wants to like it doesn't want to do anything, but the way that it survives and like propagates and keeps going is by reproducing. So I think like life finds a way to reproduce. Um, but in a lot of like bacteria, viruses are how they kind of get new diversity in their genes. Because sometimes a virus will inject or put itself into the genome of the cell that it goes into. And so for some bacteria, that's really good because a virus will take some, they're kind of like sloppy machines. So they'll take their virus DNA with them, but they'll also take a little bit of bacteria DNA and drop it off into the buddy bacteria. So it's an important way of like increasing diversity. Um, for humans, I don't think there's a lot of like good viruses,
Okay.
but I think we've learned from viruses important like molecular techniques and things to for treatment, and I don't know.
Okay. That's really cool. Okay, can
Yeah.
you kind of offshoot the virus thing? Like, how did the coronavirus specifically come about? Like, because I
Yeah,
feel like
so
the thing I was learning is like, like pandemics are kind of like a thing. Like, even there's no way to stop a pandemic because at some point a new virus will be created, right? And then it has the potential to spread massively like this. So, like, why does stuff like the coronavirus happen?
yeah, so some viruses only exist in one type of organism. So some would be like only in humans, and we can't give it to anything else. It just stays with us only. Some of them exist in a few different species and like freely travel between them. Some of them exist mostly in like bats, for example, but
Right.
can occasionally jump into humans. So some viruses we can't give to each other, but we could like all get them from the same bat. Um,
Okay. Oh, that's so weird.
depend, yeah, depending on how it spreads. So coronavirus is coronavirus is like a family of viruses. It's not just one. It's not
Huh.
just this one. So it's a family of viruses. Basically, the name is because of this one has a membrane, so it's got the genetic material, the protein capsule, and then a membrane around it. And if you've seen all the pictures of it, it's like a bunch of spikes.
Yeah.
It's like corona means crown, so that just looks like a crown. So this whole family has the same membrane, basically, or appearance. And so there's a few different animals like cattle, camels, bats, us that the coronaviruses can live in, and there's a lot of different types. Sometimes when there's two animals that both are reservoirs for the virus, they can have like some jumping around of genetic material within the virus. So the idea is that, in whatever market this started in, that there was probably a bat and something else,
Oh,
or maybe two different bats with two different kinds. I don't know, but two animals coming together, allowing the virus to be like, oh, hey, this is my twin that I've never met. Let's like swap some material and infect
huh.
humans now.
Oh,
Um,
interesting.
and and the reason it's an issue, so it's like a novel new virus, and so humans have never seen it before, and so nobody has immunity to it.
Okay.
Like
So
we can all
this
get it.
this leads to one of the questions. I think this is Kelsey's question. Like, how concerned should we really be?
I think really concerned, unfortunately. And I think there was another question like, about the flu and how this compares to
Oh
the
yeah.
flu, and I think I think it's like interesting to tie them together. So one, we should all be concerned because none of us have immunity to it. So basically, if we do nothing and if we're out living our normal lives, if we could all get infected at exactly the same time. And so the biggest problem with this virus is that we're all getting infected at the same time. So that means all of the old people and all of the immunocompromised people that can get really sick are all going to get sick at exactly the same time. Um, what else was I going to say?
Yeah, can you
And
explain? Oh, sorry, go
yeah,
ahead.
no, you go for it.
I was gonna ask, like, this was one of my questions originally on Monday. Like, I feel like one of the things I heard is like it's comparable to the flu-ish, but the flu actually kills more people every year. And then like I was wondering if like the difference or why the coronavirus is so much of a bigger deal. Like, why don't we shut down the country every year for the flu? Is it because we have the flu shot, even though everyone says like the flu shot doesn't necessarily work, you know, like there's no guarantee it's gonna keep you from getting the flu, right? Is that correct?
Yeah, I will challenge that there's no need to put these around flu shot because it is a thing that exists
Oh my gosh,
um,
sorry,
in the
Scott.
real. Yeah, so you're right. The flu shot works about like 50 to 80% of the time. If you get it, that will like protect you.
Mhm.
Part of it's a guessing game because the scientists that make the flu shot have to look at all the strains that were out there the year before and kind of
Okay.
guess what's going to be the most likely strain to be like the problem child the next year.
Okay.
That virus is always changing little by little. So they're kind of making their best guess, like what is going to be the biggest one. So
Hmm.
sometimes they get really close to the actual virus, and then the flu shot works better than other years when they just happen to not guess as correctly. Um,
Leave me alone,
the
bro.
re the reason the flu shot's so important though is that if you have like a room full of like 100 people and half of them have the flu shot, even if it doesn't work for all of them, a lot of those people are not going to get infected with the flu, and those people are not going to pass it on to other people,
Mm.
and so on and so on and so on. So that's what we
Hi.
call herd immunity. Oh hey
Hmm.
Sarguni. Um, so that's what's called like herd immunity. So that it's basically protecting enough people in the herd that if one of us gets sick, a lot of the other ones around us are not going to catch it, so we can't pass it on as easily. With
Sure.
this virus, none of us have immunity, so we're all passing it to each other like willy-nilly. And
Willy nilly.
it is more deadly than the flu. It's I think the death rate is kind of like unknown right now, but it's probably around 1 to 3% um, of like all people that get it, whereas the flu is like I think 0.1%.
Okay.
This is probably going to kill a lot more people than the flu. I mean,
Why do
it will.
people keep tossing around the statistic then that like the flu kills thousands of people, the coronavirus is not as dangerous? Like, why is that a thing? Do
Yeah,
you know?
I think the flu is bad also, and I think that's like kind of one of the issues. Hey, Christian. Hey,
Hi,
Frida.
Sarah Brown.
All these people I
I
love.
know.
This is great. Um, half these people are doctors, so this is great. This is good. What
Doctors
was I
trying to
saying? Oh,
educate us all.
I think that one of the issues is like people don't really take the flu seriously, but it does kill a lot of people every year, and that's why we
Okay.
push about vaccines and things like that. I think probably there'll be a cultural shift after all this is over, where people will take things like the flu shot more seriously. I hope at least.
Okay.
Um, but I mean, the flu kills a lot of
Maybe
people,
they
but this
won't put
is
it in air quotes anymore.
right. Yeah, hopefully.
Oh, this is a good
Did you
question.
get your flu shot, Christine?
No, not this year. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Brooke used to make me do it when I lived in
Well,
Illinois, and
just stay
I can't.
inside.
I am. Okay, Hannah has a good question. If I get sick, should I go to the doctor to see if it is coronavirus and get included in the count of people who have it, or should I stay home to save doctor time for people who might be at higher risk? That's a really good question.
Yeah, I would if you think you're sick, I would just stay home. Unless you're feeling like, man, I'm like sick and need help from a doctor. But if you're just going to find out if you have it, I would just assume that you have it, and stay home because you're right. You're gonna expose like anybody in the waiting room, the doctor, all the nurses, people like that. I think in a perfect world, we would have like, you know, 500 million tests and we could just test everybody now. So you could know like I have it, stay home. Plus, the test is not perfect. It's not 100. It's not going to catch 100% of all cases. So even if
Okay.
it was negative, they'd probably still just say stay home.
Brooke, stop yelling at me on the internet.
Yeah, amen, Brooke.
Whatever. Okay, so Brooke says, I've heard in the past for new illnesses like SARS, it takes 16 to 18 weeks to develop a vaccine. Have you heard any news in the medical world about vaccine timelines? And that was another question that someone asked, like, how close are we to a cure or remedy?
Yeah, I think the vaccine is going to take a long time.
Hmm.
Like, I don't think that's going to be a part of this initial wave. Um,
Okay.
so, like, probably like at least 6 months to a year to have a vaccine.
Wow.
Um, One of the issues with pandemics and things like this is that you can get like a first huge initial wave, and then we do things like we're doing now, like quarantining, we kind of slow it down. But no, still nobody has immunity. So until there is a vaccine, there's going to be probably outbreaks in areas, like little pockets and recurrences and things like that. And maybe even like next year, there's outbreaks of flu every year because not everybody's immune to it. People don't get their flu shots or they haven't had it before, things like that.
Hmm.
So there's always kind of like a new this could just enter in as like a circulating virus that we have.
Can you explain, like, how do people get immunity? So is it just that they have to get the coronavirus and then just like blast through it and then they become immune?
Hopefully. So we don't know. I mean, you a lot of times that's how it works, that you're immune at least for a while from what you get infected with, but we haven't like hasn't existed long enough to know if people like have lasting immunity just from getting it once. And a vaccine would be the ideal way because then you can give someone immunity without having them actually get the virus.
The virus. That makes
Yeah.
sense. I'm learning so much right now. I did not know all this.
Good.
Okay, so Brooke brought up SARS, and this was one of my questions from Monday. Like, so I remember when I don't know, I was younger, a small child, a small Asian child, probably in the Midwest, maybe in New Hampshire, that SARS was a thing, and it was like a big deal. It was really scary. It killed a lot of people, and I think I knew about it because my family is from Hong Kong, so out east it was a super big deal. And then I remember when Ebola was like crazy, and it was super deadly. How come America didn't shut down for those, even though those were more deadly?
Yeah, so let's start with Ebola because that's like it's more different than SARS is. SARS is a coronavirus, like
Oh,
COVID-19.
really?
Yeah, Ebola is a different virus. So
Okay.
the way Ebola, it depends on a few things, how a virus spreads. So is that like just from coughing on somebody, or is it from like their blood getting in your mouth, or
Mm-hmm.
like from stool to mouth, so like the contaminated water or through sex or things like that. So it's how it spreads, and then it's how strong, virulent it is, how likely it is if you come in contact with it, you're going to get infected. Um, so like things like HIV, surprisingly, is like not very virulent. So like if you got exposed to it once, you don't have a super high likelihood of getting infected with it.
Okay.
Um, so for Ebola, the way that it's spread is through bodily fluids. So it's not like this one where it's like a lot of coughing and just like projectiling it into your
Mm.
nose or mouth. And so the protective equipment that doctors wear is like usually very adequate for protecting against it. And it was super deadly, and so I think people took it really seriously.
Hmm.
Versus like where a lot of people have been downplaying this, saying like, oh, it's like a cold.
Right.
If it's kind of like a meme, like, oh, I got coronavirus, but if you have Ebola, it's like,
Right.
oh no. So I think that all plays a role. But I think one of the biggest reasons is just it's harder to just spread, but
Okay.
it is super deadly. SARS was like pretty deadly as well. And I don't think we really understand exactly what happened to make SARS go away. I was reading about it this morning, just prepping for this, and it looks like, I mean, they did quarantining in the areas and they like limited travel and things like that. But from what I could tell, it was not like anything that's happening now. Um, so there's some question of like whether it was just part of like what was going to happen anyway with SARS, that it maybe just burned out seasonally,
Mm.
or if it was just I think viruses can also kind of mutate their way to death if they're really changing that often, um, and then like no longer being effective. But I don't think I think people feel like we dodged a bullet a little bit with SARS.
Yeah.
Um, and the US never shut down because it was never a big problem here. If you think about like when the US shut down, it was after we had a lot of cases already, and it was very
Okay.
obvious that like oh, we can't just brush this under the rug. We're not like this. We're not dodging this bullet by doing nothing.
Mhm. Okay, that makes sense to me. Hannah noted that there are some drugs that are promising that were developed for other stuff, but can be effective against coronavirus. So, sucks that we don't have a vaccine, but people who are lethally sick, there could be options for them in the coming weeks and months. Have you heard about that at the hospital?
Yeah. So they've tested, or they've done. So basically, all the data that's coming out is like really preliminary, and it's a lot of just kind of like throwing drugs at it and seeing what works, and having studies with pretty small sample sizes to see if they're effective or not. Um, and really kind of like abandoning a lot of classic how you would approach a trial. It's more just like, let's just try this and go with it and immediately use it on patients. So
What they
two of
need.
the drugs that they've tested together, which are antiviral medicines, like didn't really show any benefit. The one that's like making the news right now is hydroxychloroquine, which is a anti-malaria medicine, but it's also a medicine we use for a lot of autoimmune problems.
Hmm.
And there's like some evidence that that might be helpful. But I don't think we're going to have like concrete answers or
Yeah.
frankly like a good medicine anytime soon. I think it's going to be over time that we'll figure out if that works or not. And luckily, the side effect profile is low, so people can just are probably just going to get it, and we won't really know how much of a difference it makes until a
Yeah.
while.
There's a question from Jared that said, for those in the food service, like doing carryout options, what should we be aware of with all this?
Yeah, I would say staying as far away from people as you can. So like I know some delivery services are doing like drop off service where they just literally like put it on the floor and say see ya. Um, if I don't know if they like taking money would probably not be like something I would want to do right now, but if that's what you have to do, then I don't know how you get around it. And then just like staying away from people like 6 feet away if you can, or if you have to hand somebody food, just doing it quickly, and then not touching your face basically the whole time you're working and washing your hands frequently. Most of the spread is coming from like cough and sneezing, like shooting it at other people's nose, eyes, and mouths. But we think some spread is also from touching surfaces. So just being really cognizant of washing your hands frequently. Like if every time you come back from a delivery, wash your hands for 20 seconds.
Oh, that's good.
And also thank you for delivering us food.
Also, thank you. That really does. Like, it's hard right now. If you guys have other questions, you guys can drop them in here because Scott's obviously an educated machine answering all of our queries. But I'm gonna keep asking my questions until you guys drop yours. Okay, so in your opinion, why isn't America taking this seriously? Like, you already started. Brooke says that's so gross. Like, you already started alluding. Like, a lot of the I think rhetoric has been like it's just like a cold. Like, what's the big deal? But like in your opinion, as a doctor and what you're seeing with your friends and all that stuff, why do you think people are kind of blowing it off or panicking on the other side? I guess.
Yeah, I think blowing it off, I was thinking about that today. I think it's that we've just never seen this before. Um, and so I think the purpose of history is that we get to learn from the past, right? But I think like we've never really had a pandemic like this. Um, I mean, there's been like HIV and things like that, but a lot of people were not alive during that time,
Mm-hmm.
um, or the people that are like young adults now were not. So I think just not having any experience with something like this before, you don't realize how bad it can be. And I was in that same boat as well. Especially like as a medical professional, I've never seen something like this either. Um,
Yeah, that's
and I
good.
think it was the what like started to hit me was I think most of us will be fine, but it's going to be pretty like disastrous when uh, we have too many old people hospitalized needing ventilators who are not able to get them. Like in Italy, they had to decide who they were going to intubate, put on a ventilator to help them live, and who they were just going to let die because they don't have enough resources. So
That's right.
that's like, yeah. So the whole point of like everything that we're doing now is just we think that a lot of people are going to get sick. We're just trying to spread that out so that the hospitals can take care of the people that are really, really ill.
Yeah. You said something interesting to me the other day where I felt like it put it in perspective for me where you're like at the when we get to the end of this, probably the same amount of people will get infected. It's just that we want to slow it down. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. I mean, if we like if everybody like truly quarantine and just stay away from each other, it would all be done in like 2 weeks. But that's not going to happen, just how
Mm,
our world works. So I think, yeah, I mean, when a non-immune person like you or me eventually encounters it in the wild, like we're gonna get it because we there's no way we can't. Um,
hmm.
so we're just trying to make that as slow of a process as we can.
Yeah. Has your job been crazy right now? Like,
Yeah, it's ramping up. We've had like at least two positive cases in our hospital, but there's a lot more that we're like trying to rule out for it.
mm,
Um, one of the biggest concerns that, oh, hi, Sarah Witowski. Um, she's the Bernedoodle.
oh,
Actually,
Bernedoodle.
it's actually a person, but
It's not
um,
an actual Bernedoodle.
it's
That's
not
scary.
a dog. Yeah. One of the concerns we have is that, and a lot of hospitals have, is that while we're also like taking care of this huge spike of patients, we also need the equipment to take care of that huge spike of patients. And so that includes things like ventilators, but also just things like masks and
Mm,
gowns to use to protect ourselves.
yeah,
Um, so kind of trying to allow time for like manufacturing of those things.
that makes
And we're
sense.
trying to figure out how to best conserve those, which has been interesting because I think places are going to run out of that stuff.
Yeah,
Um, and I don't know what you do
yeah.
when that happens.
Can you tell me, like, as a doctor, what's been your biggest concern in all of this?
Um, ooh, I feel like there's a lot to be scared of right now. I think something that I've been coming to, like, just personally coming to grips with is like this is going to last for months, and
Hmm.
I think kind of just the realization that like kind of like happened so fast within a week. It was like, oh man, people are really serious about this, and I
Yeah.
think realizing that like this is not something that's going to go away quickly. This is something we're going to have to deal with for a while, and it's going to be like annoying and it's going to be like inconvenient and our lives are going to be put on hold. But also, this is, I think, one of like, this will go down in history books and this will be like something our grandkids talk to us about. And
Hmm.
um, so just realizing like this is just going to be a huge event and there's not much we can do. I mean, there's a lot we can do by staying inside, but like it's going to keep happening. And I think just kind of getting ready for the long haul of that rather than being like, all right, we're doing this 2 week quarantine, then life's back to normal. I think it's going to be longer than that
Yeah.
and bad. But um,
Hmm.
I think like for me personally, like kind of getting myself in that mindset has been helpful as opposed to thinking I feel like I would just be disappointed if I thought life was
Yeah.
going to be back to normal really
Like,
soon.
like just having a good reality check. Like the world's gonna be
Yeah,
different for a while. Um,
yeah.
so that's like a good transition to some of the other questions I want to ask you. And again, guys, if you have comments or if you have questions that we're not covering, you have an amazing resource right here. So you should ask him. Um, how like what should we do to make this time like better for ourselves and for the people around us? Like you can talk about medically, but you can just talk about just your ideas in life right now with what you're saying.
Um, well, I love plants, so my I like looking at my plants every day. So I do that. I don't know if you have plants, but if you do, just take some time looking at them, inspecting them. Um, I like had my first virtual happy hour yesterday. Yeah, yesterday. That was
Okay.
actually super fun. Um, and like I feel
What
like a
did you
lot
do
of times
through?
we did it through Zoom, but
Zoom?
I heard about an app like House Party.
Yeah, I know House Party too. Yeah.
Yeah, so that was actually way more fun than I thought. And like usually, I feel like when you video somebody, it feels a little bit awkward,
Yeah.
but you literally have nowhere to be or nothing else to do. So it feels fun to just like see each other. Um, Thankfully, Amazon is still delivering. So
That's true. Praise
I got
praise
some
the Lord.
kettlebells that are on the way, hopefully.
For
So
your
I've been
workouts.
doing, yeah, I've been doing workouts. I got a puzzle
What's the puzzle of?
art. It's like a landscape.
Very
Yeah,
interesting.
I don't know. honestly, I don't know what we're supposed to do. I like read a book, but I think it's like for me, I'm just kind of like, oh, this is gonna suck, you know? Like I don't know
Mhm.
if there's any way to make this like positive. And you know, I feel like when somebody dies, a lot of people are like, oh, this, you know, at least like let's look on the bright side. Like let's look at
Mhm.
like think about all the good times. Like, but sometimes it just sucks and there's not a lot to like do
Yeah.
about that. Like, I think this situation just sucks. And if you want to be productive, that's awesome. But also, if you want to be anxious and, you know, not be
Like,
productive, that's an equally valid
yeah.
response to it.
Yeah, that's
Um,
that's a good statement. We have a question right here that says, "Do you think the virus is evolving, getting more deadly as time goes on?"
that's a good question. So,
That's a great question.
in reading for preparing for this interview, um, I read, and actually, what the Fauci, who's the guy, who's the leader of all of this, the scientist, like wrote one of the medical textbooks that I keep on my shelf, which I didn't realize until today.
Mm,
That was exciting. But in this book, they talk about like viruses do evolve, but usually they evolve to be less deadly.
huh,
So I don't know why that is.
that's good to know.
Because
That makes me feel
cause
better.
I think in Contagion they evolved to be like more deadly. And that doesn't, but it probably is evolving. I mean, that's how viruses like do their thing. So
Yeah. Okay, this was probably like we're about to close it down. So if you have final questions or comments, drop them. Bright side from Dr. Michael. More
Michael,
times
stop
it's
it.
like call slash write old friends and cook healthy things at home. He's bringing some positivity. We're gonna have him tomorrow. So
Yeah.
um,
So
we get reality check with Scott and then a pep up with Dr. Michael. um, I love it. I mean, I think like that's such a good picture of like everybody's at a different space about it, and for some people it's really difficult. For me, it hasn't been quite yet, but it's just like I really like being by myself at my house, so and not forced to interact with people. So it's kind of been
yeah,
really enjoyable for me. But again, I'm like I know that for other people it's like devastating and they feel really isolated and it's very difficult. So there's like a wide spectrum of responses. Um, how
yeah.
how do you
Well, I
grow?
think. Oh,
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
well, I was gonna say, I think it's gonna be. There's a lot of populations that's gonna be hard for, like elderly people, um, who just can't have visitors. Like our hospital's not allowing any visitors because we don't want people bringing the virus in or taking it home. Um, so that's really hard. There's a lot of people who just live alone and you know, who are already socially isolated for whatever reason. So
Yeah,
I think it's going to be useful to keep our antenna up for people who may not be like you, who are like, you know, more
yeah,
likely to struggle through this.
yeah,
Um, and like Michael said, I think reconnecting with people now is a great time to do it because we really have nothing else
yeah.
to do.
And I was reading somewhere like one of the ideas that someone had is like we could call nursing homes or retirement homes, and maybe we can even call hospitals and ask like, are there people that don't have visitors that you can just chat with for a bit to give them a little bit of spark, pep in their day. Can I ask you, how do you? Oh, wait, we have a question from Maggie. If your child had a regular wellness visit that they are still holding, would you feel comfortable taking your kid? That's a good question.
Mm, so when kids are getting the virus, they're usually fine. So I wouldn't necessarily be worried about like my own child getting it. I would be worried though that if like my family got it, that we would give it to other people. So if it's just a wellness visit, if they don't need vaccines or anything like that, I would call and ask if you could like do an appointment over the phone or like telehealth if your
Mm,
clinic has it. I think it probably depends on how old your kid is and what if they have any needs other than just kind of like checking in. Um,
mm.
I don't know. You could ask your doctor, hey, can this be rescheduled for like later? I don't know anything about kids. See, I don't know. I don't know about kids.
She does need a vaccine. Meh.
Well, vaccines are important. I think as long as you just remember, like when you go, stay away from other people more than 6 feet. I wouldn't take anybody else besides the one kid. Wash your hands. Okay. Oh, first appointment. Aw.
That's
Yeah, I mean, it's probably fine, especially if it's her first appointment. I'm guessing she can't walk and like touch things. So I would just don't touch anything, stay away from people, and wash your hands really well. Um, but vaccines are important.
Hmm.
Or just call your doctor and talk to them because they're pediatricians. So
Lauren canceled her baby's first wellness appointment. So that's good.
a lot,
That's
yeah,
back.
a lot of people are not doing appointments right now. So we may be heading that way where all appointments are telehealth or just not happening in the short term.
Yeah, that makes sense. What suggestions do you have, like, to help people just at least, if not grow, just stay above the water when it comes to mentally, emotionally, spiritually? Do you
Hmm.
have ideas?
Yeah. Hi, Amy. I would exercise. I like that's part of my life to begin with, but I think we will lose it if we don't move somehow. There's a ton of like free stuff going around right now, whether that's gyms posting like routines or free like yoga or what, just find some way to move. You can still get outside as long as you're keeping your distance from people. So I would take advantage of that and try and get outside every day, and just stay away from people. And then I think, I mean, to Michael's point, like this is a time where like we're forced to slow down. So I'm kind of looking forward to reading some books that I've just like not read, and then
Yeah.
not feeling guilty about not working, and doing that.
Hmm.
Um, so maybe just trying to take some of the joy from slowing down and like looking at my plants for an hour every
Oh,
day.
you've been doing some fire posts about your
You
plants.
just wait. I have a time lapse coming up of
I'm really
my
excited.
fiddle leaf of my leaf growth. So it's gonna be, hiya.
Hiya, bro. I'm so excited. Uh, okay, guys, last call for your questions because my fun question is, what are your top three movies or shows that you would recommend to watch during quarantine?
Ooh, okay. Top three shows. Love is Blind.
Did you like it? 'Cause I watched the first couple episodes and then I'm like,
Uh,
they're starting to annoy me, and I was like, do I press on or do
I
I?
think you have to. I think to be culturally relevant these days, you need to watch it.
Okay,
Um,
please calm down.
and it's so crazy that you have to see what happens and who,
Oh,
if anybody, ends up together.
okay,
Um,
fine.
Love is Blind. I have we've been watching Schitt's Creek, which I love. Um,
That's a funny show.
that's a good one. Third show. I'm also I don't know if this is embarrassing or not. Michael's trying to get me into Big Brother, so we're watching season 14, which is from like 2008 or something of Big Brother. If you get the app CBS All Access, then you get access to all of the seasons of Big Brother. So it might be
Wow.
the time. Oh
Wow.
yeah,
Okay.
talk to Brooke. Brooke fast forwarded through all of the slow parts of Love is Blind.
How did you even tell Brooke when
But
it was a slow part? Like that, I just like, I'm perpetually annoyed by these people. I'm like, what are you doing? Okay, anyway. But
Christine, you may not be the best audience for it, but I think most people can find something to enjoy in Love is
okay.
Blind.
Okay, thank you for calling out my bad personality. Whatever. All right. I really feel like I have to take some time to process all the information you just shared with me. I learned a lot. I learned a lot. Thank you so
Good.
much for spending time with me today. And thank you everybody else
You're
that
welcome.
commented and asked great questions. I hope you all feel better educated and like I think a deeper conviction to like stick with it. Slow parts are when you
Yeah.
get bored, Christine, says Brooke. Okay, Brooke, can you again leave me alone? This was been like Scott's been roasting me and then Brooke roasts me harder in return. That's what
I
this has felt like.
have
Final
not
words?
roasted you, Christine.
Yeah, you yelled at me about the
Final
flu shot.
words.
Flu shot.
Oh, that's not roasting. That's medical advice.
Okay.
Um,
These
with
are
some
not like
attitude.
this isn't hurting anybody by putting
The
them in your
flu
quotes.
shots. Yeah. Um,
Final words to the people.
oh,
Ooh.
somebody's flirting with me in these comments. Oh, um, uh, no, I think you're right. I think this is like the time to stick with it because I think we're at the beginning of this, not the middle or the end. This is like the start. So stay strong, read a book, look at your plants. That's all I have to say.
Great. Tomorrow we have Dr. Michael who will talk to us about mental health and coping mechanisms, which I'm very
It'll make
excited
you feel
about.
better. Yeah.
After all the news that Scott just dropped on us, Dr. Michael will make us feel better tomorrow.
All
All right.
right, love you guys.
Love ya. Bye.
Bye.